Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into SQL, one of the most important tools for working with databases. Specifically in this video, I'll explain the two powerful commands in SQL programming language, the select and select distinct. So by the end of this video, if you're new to SQL or just wanted to polish your skills, this is the perfect starting point. So without wasting time, let's grab our coffee and let's get started. But first of all, like always, our first question, what is select? The select statement is like the superstar of SQL. It helps you to fetch data from a database. Think of it as a way to tell the database, hey, show me this information that I want, okay? So here's a quick example. Let's have a very quick example, but first of all, let's create our first database. So this is our default database called master, but we don't want to work with it. We want to work with our customized database. So we have to create a new one, okay? So I'm going to create a new database with the command of create database and the name of our database. So let's choose a name, for example, my data. So my data will be our database name that we wanted to create, okay? So let's run this command and see what will happen. Okay, the command completed in 99 milliseconds. Awesome. So like you see here, our database has been created. So we have to switch to our new database to run our commands on our specific database, okay? So how we can do that? Click on the master in this section and then choose your database that you want. So I'm going to select my data, the database that I have created, okay? So I'm going to select my data. We have another way. We can use some SQL commands to switch between our databases. We can use the use command and type our database name. For example, if I want to return to my previous database called master, I have to run this command, use master. And now if I'm going to run just this command, use master, not the create database, okay? If I'm going to just run the use master, like you see here, in just 2 milliseconds, I roll him back to my master database and I can run all of my commands in this database and apply the changes on the database that I have selected at the last, okay? So this is a new command that we have learned. But let's focus on select. But before focusing on select, we have to create our database and our tables and then filling some data into those tables or the table that we're going to create and then select them to fetch all the data that we need from the database, okay? So first of all, we should have data inside a table, so we should have a table also, and then using the select and select distinct, we can fetch the information in each table of our database, okay? So without wasting time, let's do it. So right now I want to create a table, okay? So I'm going to say create a table, and inside these parentheses I'm going to define all of the properties that I want to add inside my table, okay? So first of all, for example, I want to create a table, but before that, before creating the table, we have to choose a name for our table. For example, I want to create a table called customers, okay? So I'm going to say customers, and inside my table I'm going to define an ID, which is an integer, okay? And we can define it like that. So we can define an ID with the data type of integer. I'm not want to going further for this section, so I'm just going to define a new property called ID with the data type of integer for our customers table. And after that, I'm going to define a new property. We can define an infinity properties, okay? So there's no limitation to defining a property for our table. So I'm going to define a new property called name. For example, our customers, let's assume that each customer should have a unique ID. We will discuss more about the unique properties in our tables, but right now these are not unique, but we put a unique values to them. This is not a point that we want to discuss about the primary keys and unique values inside our records of our tables, okay? So just forget about it. And let's assume that our customers table should have properties like ID, name, and city, okay? So let's define those properties. Name, which is a varchar, and we're going to give it a max limitation of, for example, 255 characters. And also for the city, I'm going to find a property called city. It is also varchar, and let's give it a limitation called, for example, 255 characters. Okay, and add a semicolon. And now if I'm going to run this SQL command, I'm going to create a table inside my database. And so let's run and see the result. I'm going to run this command. So it completed in 9 milliseconds, like you see here. But in my data, if I right click on my data, my database that I have created, and inside the data group, go to the tools section in the manage shown schemas, I'm going to select the DBO schema, which is the default schema for all our databases. Okay, I'm going to select the schema, and right now, like you see here, if I'm going, oh, sorry, I run this command in master database. Okay, and like you see here, my customers database have been created inside the master database, and that is my fault. Okay, so what we have to do is right now I'm going to run a new SQL command called drop, and I'm going to say drop table customers. And now in the master database, if I'm going to run this command, just this command, you can see that this command is completed in 8 milliseconds, and right now my customer table dropped or removed or deleted from the master database because I created wrong. Okay, so I deleted the customer table from the master database, and right now I want to create this table inside my new database called my data. Okay, so I'm going to switch from master to my database, and then here what I'm going to do is running this SQL command to create a table called customers with these 3 properties inside my database. Okay, so I'm going to run just this command, and like you see here, this SQL command completed in 4 milliseconds, and we have a folder or a directory or a package called tables. And if I open it up, you can see here that we have a table called customers. And if I double click on the customers, here you can see that we have a field called ID, name, and city. These are our columns. All the properties is one column inside our table in the database. Okay, so we have a column called ID, column called name, column called city. All of these columns are our properties of our table. Okay, and each value for these columns called a row. Okay, and also we call it a record. Okay, so I think that this is very clear for you right now.